win. So is this actually a good thing?
Well, I think it could be a good thing because Brady is going to respond to the challenge that has been placed before him. I don't think he's going to fold beneath that kind of pressure. I do think, however, it's kind of weak on the part of Bruce Arians to be calling him out like that. You shouldn't be naming any names, to be quite honest with you, particularly when your offensive game plan was absolutely positively horrendous. A matter of fact, the entire coaching staff, which Bruce Arians is responsible for because he is the head coach, was awful. Your offensive play calling, your game plan overall was awful. Your defensive game plan and its performance was awful. On both sides of the ball, Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, love both of them. Absolutely awful day at work Sunday night. Bruce Arians is responsible for that. And so when you are willing to talk about how Mike Evans was open, you're clearly pointing the finger at Tom Brady and highlighting how he missed this and he missed that. Now, I like it only from the standpoint that in terms of Brady is going to respond for that and be even better for it. But what I'm sensing is a guy in Bruce Arians that's quick to pass the buck. That's not the reputation that I think he's ever had. But since Tom Brady has arrived, it seems like that has been the case. And I think that this is something that needs to be probed a bit more. It needs to be investigated because he's been pointing the finger from day one. He pointed the finger at him week one, and now he's pointing the finger at him again, both losses to the New Orleans Saints. And I'm kind of wondering why that is. I'm also wondering how Bruce Arians may feel about the fact that a player that he did not want on the squad, which was Antonio Brown, is now on the squad. Who knows whether or not the same relationship that Tom Brady had with Mr. Robert Kraft and how it was able to usurp the authority of Bill Belichick, as Max pointed out, who obviously wanted to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm wondering if Tom Brady, because he has that same kind of cachet in Tampa, whether or not that's something that could potentially be rubbing Bruce Arians the wrong way. I have no idea. I don't cover the team. I think that we can defer to the beat writers covering the team every day to enlighten us as to exactly what's going on. But I mean, just connect the dots with what we know about sports. If you are a coach that feels that your authority is being usurped in any way, or at least that's the reputation that Tom Brady had with Bill Belichick over the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, that kind of stuff trickles on down, or at least across to other colleagues of Bill Belichick. And who knows, that might be what we're sensing from Bruce Arians now. It's something worth considering because I don't like the fact that he spoke about things in such a specific fashion because he did not need to do that.
It is good for Tom Brady, I think, what Bruce Arians said. And that's a 180 from the beginning of the season. I felt, at least as far as I perceived it, I was shocked the way Arians went at Brady after that first loss. And Brady was no good. And Arians was blunt about it. And I thought, damn, that's a rude welcome. But the team did respond, Molly, as you mentioned off the top. They got better and better. And so did Brady. And so you can't really argue with the efficacy of Arians simply telling the truth at the post-game pressers. But it's more than just he's hard on Brady, and so if you can rip your superstar the way Belichick could with Tom Brady or Popovich could with Tim Duncan, then everyone has to get in line. It's more than simply that kind of tough stuff that we all point to in these kind of situations. Because recall, when Brady clearly didn't know what down it was at the end of the Bears game, which they lost, after publicly ripping his line, Arians covered for him. He was pretty obviously lying about it. And then Brady never really had to respond. And he never really took it. He avoided the question. He did not answer the question directly at the post-game presser, right? Brady didn't say, yeah, I forgot. He talked about something else. Was that to cover for Arians? Because Arians had already covered for Brady? Whatever it was, that worked too. Because the next week they came out, no mental errors. So it's so far to me, what Arians has shown in terms of his handling of Tom Brady, and that's actually a difficult thing. The GOAT shows up on your team. He's entering his mid-40s soon. Like he's going to be out of his early 40s soon into his mid-40s. You are loaded both sides of the ball. You are expected to do great things. The over and under, everyone says you have to have at least double-digit wins. But it is hard. There's COVID. You can't practice. People can't get to know each other the same way, which is important, especially on an offensive line. They drafted an offensive lineman in the first round, not reached for him, but like made a move to get him and all that stuff. And that takes time. So the circumstances are difficult for a head coach who, in spite of his excellent reputation, what does the resume say as a head coach? Any Super Bowls, anything like that? And yet he's getting the guy. So far, I have to credit Arians. Even when I've raised an eyebrow, really, you're going to call Tom Brady out like that? Or damn, you're going to cover for him like that when it's obviously not true? So far, Arians has shown me a very good sense of what buttons to push and when to push them. So even though, once again, I'm like, wow, he really went there, I have to defer to his judgment because so far it's worked. They're in the middle of a very successful season.
I don't know how much evidence there is that he's pushing all the right buttons, though. That's my only thing. I mean, that remains to be seen. We anticipate that he has and that he will, but I think it remains to be seen. And I think that, you know what, you can't knock him for trying if that's truly his goal. But I really, really think that people need to think about what I said in terms of the Antonio Brown thing is what crystallizes that. Bruce Arians did not want Antonio Brown on this roster. Bruce Arians was on the record saying he wasn't a fit in our locker room. We don't need him. Bruce Arians is the former offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. He knows Antonio Brown a little bit and did not want him. And suddenly Tom Brady gets there, and now we'll embrace Antonio Brown and we'll let him come on board. It was obviously something that Tom Brady has pushed. And so because of that, those are the kind of things I think you need to think about, particularly as it breeds off of what transpired in New England, particularly with what we're seeing from them now. If Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Cam Newton because I don't necessarily feel that way. But the point is that Bill Belichick clearly had Tom Brady's successor in mind. He clearly wanted to go in that direction and was denied the opportunity to do so because of Tom Brady's relationship with Robert Kraft. And Robert Kraft obviously usurped the authority of Bill Belichick because he's the owner for the New England Patriots and sided with Tom Brady. And so I think that if you look at it from that perspective, the fact that that's on Tom Brady's resume, those kind of things, and then you look at Antonio Brown being there in Tampa Bay, I think one has to wonder how Bruce Arians is feeling about that right now. That's just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a perfectly fair conjecture, right? You can absolutely wonder about that. I want to say one thing about AB, though, since you brought it up. This does not absolve him of any accusations if they prove to be true or anything like that. I'm not trying to say, oh, everything's okay now with AB. If he committed any crimes, he must answer for them and be held accountable by the law and the NFL, right? So I'm not absolving anyone. I just want to say, for the first time with AB, Stephen A., and I don't know if you felt this way, when he talked, I started to get the feeling, for the first time, he's not just BSing everybody right now. At some level, he's starting to get it. I have not seen anything outrageous on social media. I have not heard any, new accusations or new evidence where he texted someone stupidly or did something stupid. I have not heard him, and it's early still, throw anyone under the bus. And when he answered questions about how he's working on himself and everything, that seemed to come to me from a real place in him. So when Arians says, the reason I bring all that up is when Arians says that it was his decision, which I don't believe, and obviously you don't, and most people don't, to do this and everything. But when he talks about why, there's what Antonio Brown's doing, what steps he's taking, it's more, it rings truer with me than it would if I was looking at Antonio Brown and thinking, that's the same old AB.
Well, for me, it's a little bit different. And the only thing that I'll say is this, shoving the legal issues aside, because I echo your sentiments wholeheartedly. If he's done anything wrong from a legal perspective, he's got to be made to answer for that by the law and the NFL. That's a given. But, basically restricting ourselves specifically to the NFL. I'd like to believe that he's changed his ways, and I wish him nothing but the best because he's an extraordinary talent that I believe belongs in the NFL. I think we're all better to see him out on that football field when he's really, really vibing. But when you betray people and you hurt people, that's where it resonates with me. You can do harm to yourself, and I think that's very, very forgivable. But when you secretly tape conversations, when you depart from teammates and you're calling them out, when you're making the world privy to private conversations and things of that nature, then you're just not somebody that can be trusted. And for me, when I look at him, I'm like, all right, all the best to you. You know what I'm saying? Go out there, make your money, play ball and the whole bit. But I will say this, I wouldn't trust him.
Yeah, and Stephen A., I want to piggyback off that because
That's
you're not
the
the only
argument
one
not to
feeling
even
that
give him
way.
another
His
chance, and
former
that's an argument I
teammate,
made.
Ryan Shazier, also came out recently and was really warning Tampa on signing him and had those same kind of sentiments that he's all about AB, et cetera. And obviously he played with him for quite some time. Brady was pressured